Hello, my name's Elijah Wells, and today's review is Yorgos Lanthimos' new movie, Poor Things. Based off a novel of the same name by Asda Gray, the movie follows Bella Baxter, who's portrayed by Emma Stone, as she's been resurrected from the dead by Dr. Goodwin Baxter, or known as God, in the face of Bella Baxter. She has almost like an infant understanding of the world and social cues and anything like that and social norms. And when she grows more and more mentally older, she falls in love with a lawyer portrayed by Mark Ruffalo, and they go travelling across Europe as she discovers more of her social norms and of course goes through a massive undertaking of her own sexual liberation and expression, and of course understanding the world is more of a pear-shaped than she originally conceived it to be. Knowing this is the first film directed by Yorgos Lanthimos since The Favourite, which is a movie about Queen Anne, also starring Rachel Weisz, Olivia Colman, and of course Emma Stone as well, and has also directed some other brilliant movies as well, like for example Lobster, which is a brilliantly executed dark comedy, one of the best in a decade, and as well as well-known other gems throughout the 2010s like Darktooth and Killing of a Sacred Deer. Knowing this time he's back at full string, this time with an adaptation of an Asda Gray novel of the same name. And knowing this is his usually dark and very off-kiltered humour, is usually tailor-made for his making. And of course with his collaborator Emma Stone, who's also not just starring in the movie, but also she's producing it as well. We'll just see. This is if it plays off to both of their strengths, and let's find out. The movie is fabulously extravagant at best, and also really witty, and also at best its depiction of its subject matter is definitely vulgar and not for everyone, but the movie, kind of like The Favourite and a lot of Yorgos Lanthimos' movie, is well aware of that and frankly does not care about what you think about it, because for Poor Things, in my opinion, it's a pretty bit of a brilliant odyssey about basically a child-minded woman who basically mentally grows and grows along the movie, which is something for me, for character development, is something that the movie does play at its strongest in my opinion. And the writing in that movie and the direction is of course brilliant as well, and knowing this is coming fresh off his The Favourite movie, which is his another heavily costumed period piece, and definitely employs a lot of dark humour into the movie and has some brilliant performance of Emma Stone. This is definitely a major back-to-back feat for Yorgos and Emma. The performances of Emma Stone, like I said earlier, is unbelievably brilliant. Like I did say earlier, she's basically a woman who's basically mentally essentially a child at this point. As she, again, like I did say earlier, she does mentally grow and grow more and more into the movie, like understanding social cues, social norms, and discovering the world isn't completely upright as she wanted it to be, and there's some things she can change and things she can not. And also going to some like ethical grey areas like she did in Paris, which is something in character development wise, this is something that I do pride myself like just liking something like a character progression like this one. Willem Dafoe as essentially this Frankenstein like mad scientist, which is something again playing off of his madness of Willem Dafoe, like something like, I don't know, The Lighthouse or maybe American Psycho if you consider it. Like I just like how the more maddening his roles are, the better he almost enthralls into this, like the more tailor-made it is. And of course there's other brilliant performers like Yami Yosovat, who, if I mispronounced his name, sorry, as a medical student or Godwin's assistant when it comes to Bella Baxter, who is essentially a massive backbone in this movie, who essentially carries it to the point that I think we need to do an operation on his back, since it may get given out, because he's been carrying that movie because he was absolutely brilliant. And of course there's Mark Ruffalo as the lawyer, who is definitely one of the more slimy, more more sinister characters the more the movie progresses, as his true motives around Bella Baxter seem to unravel more and more as the movie progresses, to the point he's almost like a really dodgy person, like someone like the more you get to know him, the more you kind of want to just back away from him, like given what he does like during the last third act of the movie. And the designs of the movie, both in the costume arena and of course in the sets arena, which are again extremely extravagant at best, because the movie does follow in the more Victorian era into the mix, which is again, I'm not the biggest like consumer of like period pieces, but the costume work is really gorgeous to look at. So the sets, since I also did see like a behind the scene featurette, and they did like a whole small pocket in the soundstage of like all the streets like in Lisbon where they were stopping off at. And they opened all the doors, and even some of them, I can't remember if they actually made it into the final cut of the movie, but this was definitely a world that definitely breathes on its own. It definitely lives like it, and it's also just a very gorgeously done set, and it's almost something I do like to live into that world, and also very extravagant, very colourful, and also kind of borrows from a lot of like set designs, like the more extravagant stuff, like I don't know, like one of the cruise ships and one of the prostitute houses. Kind of almost reminds me of something like like an old Victorian Crystal Palace-esque shopping mall or something. But it is definitely does play into the eccentricness of the Victorian era when it comes to set designs and costuming works, which is. And also does play into more minimalist works, like the summer clothing of Bella Baxter, which again is something that is very pleasing to look at. I think if there's one scene that, or maybe a couple scenes that definitely stood out in the movie, in my opinion, it's definitely the dinner scene, in my opinion, which is which best sums up Bella Baxter as a person, where she tries to do some conversations and negatively critiques the food and wants to punch a baby for being annoying. Like, why do and basically the scene where she vomits out food, like, bleh! Like, why should I keep it in my mouth when it's revolting and I must go punch that baby? And being pulled aside by Mark Ruffalo saying that, oh, you should not say that, that's very inappropriate attire for this occasion. And of course gives us some social cues saying like, ooh, marvellous, ooh, very good, ooh, I wonder how they made that pastry. But when they come back, the conversation was different, with Mark Ruffalo's guest being like people that watch some theatre production in London being like, unfortunately, my father just passed away, and Bella Baxter said, good, marvellous. And they continue discussing the father's passing, like, oh, I wonder how they made that pastry. I think it's kind of like commuting and putting two and two together, which Bella Baxter does progressively do more and more. She's, again, like I said earlier, she has a mental age of a child. And also the second scene, which I also really like, the dancing scene, which is just a really, really funny scene, as when some trumpet music plays in the background in a ballroom, and she just absolutely has a ball of a time, like dances completely energetically while trumpet music plays, and she tries to awkwardly wink to a bald man in the corner of a ballroom, like and of course Mark Ruffalo took offense of it and confronts him about it, and confronts other guests, which involves Bella Baxter kicking one of them as a source of frustration, which again does dwell into the more darker humour, which again Yorgos Lanthimos is known for, and what you'll come to expect from this movie. The film's cinematography by Robbie Ryan is absolutely gorgeous. The movie, even though it is shot in 35mm film, the film cinematography always finds a way to bloom into life, whether it's in black and white or in colour, and also has a really, really great usage, like earlier, like in The Favourite movie from Yorgos Lanthimos, as in use of the fishbowl camera, as the camera would always look really wide, yet always in this circular lens, which is again something that is really unique when it comes to my opinion, when it comes to Yorgos Lanthimos' films. Even though it doesn't make it clear why the black and white segments, which predominantly happen throughout the beginning of the movie or the first third of the movie, then goes all the way to color through the rest of the film, which uh, even though it's something like Oppenheimer, where it does have black and white, one for the objective depiction of Oppenheimer, one for the subjective depiction of Oppenheimer, but for Poor Things, it does go into color at when around the same time when Mark Ruffalo's character does play into the film a little bit more. It doesn't make it too clear why it changed to color. Even though, again, I'm not criticizing the decision to go color, even though the movie, particularly in its cinematography category, is absolutely beautiful in my opinion. And also in the scene where they're in a cruise ship, and also the visual effects around that scene are absolutely gorgeous. How scenic the sky and the seas and the environments they are landed into are really breathtaking and really gorgeous and unbelievably beautiful as well. And of course, the movie, the most talked about thing in the movie is the movie's depiction of sex and of Bella Baxter's essentially her personal conquest for her own freedom and sexual liberation. And the movie does have a massive task of kind of almost like looking through her personal motives about why she wanted to do it in the first place, and her impetus around that idea. And of course, the movie does have a frank discussion about her masturbations and all that. Even though it definitely is a bit of a vulgar and crude depiction and does play into more of a repetitive area of things in my opinion, as in how much it often plays in the movie, as to the point she ended up in a prostitution house in Paris. But it does essentially play into the point that, again, she is essentially a woman with a mind of a child, as she again mentally ages more and more throughout the movie, which again, even though I can understand the criticism around the repetition around the sex scene in this movie, but it also does play a point in the movie, like I just did say earlier. Poor Things is a powerhouse of a movie in my opinion. The Yorgos Lanthimos' usually dark, off-kilter humour is absolutely on point in this movie. The performance of Willem Dafoe, Emma Stone and Mark Ruffalo are all brilliant in this movie. The sets and costuming work are absolutely marvellous and gorgeous and really beautiful at best. The cinematography is very unique and very gorgeous and just whimsical at best. And also, this is a movie about Bella Baxter navigating her newfound feelings and her sexual liberation and getting her own independence. The movie exploring those themes, even though it may be brash and crude and vulgar in some areas and maybe a bit repetitive, but in my opinion it does serve a purpose, considering it's about a woman's mentality as well. The movie, in my opinion, is definitely the strongest and the best film Yorgos has ever done, and he has done films like Poor Things, of course, which he did made, of course, and also The Favourite, and of course The Lobster, and Killian Sacred Deer, and Darktooth. So I'm feeling Poor Things is a 9 out of 10. So, what do you think of Poor Things? Let me know in the comments below. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd, and this is Elijah Wells, and bye!